All right, welcome, folks. Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Good to see everyone. Hope your Monday morning is going well or afternoon now. And yeah, thanks for joining the OCFSN um, Oregon Policy Convening. We are excited to have you all here and kind of talking about Oregon policy. We got the really great lineup of presenters here today. And we're going to be talking about what we do here at OCFSN around our working groups and policy. First of all, I would love for folks to do their introductions in the chat. So please introduce yourself, your name, your organization. Really great to see who's here. Got an awesome turnout. And yeah, and give you some updates. My name is Andrew. I work for Oregon Community Food Systems Network. I'm the associate director, and I work closely with Lauren Gwynn here doing the this policy working group, and it has been the Community Food Systems at the Legislature working group. But we're going to be giving you some updates on some things we're thinking about for the future for this space. And today's the beginning of that. And Oregon Community Food Systems Network, for folks who have not been involved in our network or kind of coming in here maybe for the first time, we convene folks and host working groups for people working in food systems across Oregon to collaborate, educate each other about the work they're doing, and build community around this really important work. So we're really happy that you all are here. Maybe I'll let Lauren, you can introduce yourself as the other chair of this space.
Hey everyone, Lauren Gwynn. I'm the director of the Center for Resilient Agriculture and Food Systems at Oregon State University, and I am Extension's Community Food Systems Specialist. And I've been with OCFSN since before it was born, and it's been amazing to work with folks involved with OCFSN in how they, together and individually, are building their capacity to influence public policy in our state. And so Andrew's going to move us through just a couple of introductory slides. A lot of you know what we have been doing over the last some years, but we want to bring everybody up to speed quickly. We can talk about it more at the end and then get into our awesome speakers for today.
Nice. Thanks, Megan. Or I see Megan here. Thanks, Lauren. Some couple ground rules. Please keep yourselves on mute. We're going to be, when the presenters are presenting, we'll give them a chance to answer a couple questions after each presentation. And so today, the plan is we're going to give you a little bit of an update on what we're doing here in this space since the last legislative session in 2025. And then we're going to hear some great experts and folks doing work in Oregon on these different policy arenas. Folks from the Oregon Hunger Task Force, Partners for Hunger Free Oregon, folks from Plan for Resilient Oregon, and then Rachael Ward at Farmers Market Fund will be talking about her experience being an agent, working with agency partners. And then we'll do some breakouts to kind of talk about that stuff within the groups. And folks, feel free to stick around after that. We'll have an extra half an hour for more in-depth discussion around what this working group does and some things that come up during the breakouts. So we got an hour and a half today. And yeah, that's the basic gist of what our plan is. And Lauren, you want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and what we've been talking about doing moving forward?
Yes. So, as I said, for a long time, folks involved with Oregon Community Food Systems Network have been talking with each other and talking as a group with others about public policy and different ways we can change it. And as I said before, and it bears repeating, our purpose is to build our individual and our collective capacity to influence public policy to support our shared vision of an equitable, sustainable, and resilient food system. And so We are going to continue on with community food systems at the legislature into our 7th year. We started doing this in 2019. It was our first one. And we skipped 1 year to do some planning and just a pause because the pandemic made legislation and sessions really weird. And we are planning on shifting, not shifting, sticking with that and saying, wow, there's a lot of other really relevant state level public policy that's happening across lots of different arenas. And there are a lot of people in this network and our close partners who are involved and know stuff. And I think in the same way we've done with the legislature, if we can share information, if we can, know what's going on, we can actually, act together and make a difference in those spaces too. So, and then just so you know, those who are coming to our November 1st in-person annual convening, actually since the 2019 convening, which is where we kicked off CFS at the legislature, we are going to have a working group breakout there. But we can talk about that later. And so these are, you see on the left of the slide, the lower left, I hope all of you have seen our great annual report called Bills to Watch and then Bills We Watched, and we use that basic format. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oops.
And I always start by reminding everybody that OCFSN is a network of organizations, many of which are very active in public policy change, and quite a few of which are not. We were not founded as a food policy council or a food advocacy network. One of the things that we've realized is that public policy is a really important tool. But what we do is we don't create and advocate for a focused policy platform where we take a whole bunch of bills on the left that everybody puts on the table, but we take lots of votes and we winnow it down to just a few that we take our collective power and go to the legislature. That's not how we work. Instead, go to the next slide. We follow them all. And so the point is that policy priorities are set by member organizations and some partners whose priorities we value so much. And when we do Bills to Watch, when we're doing community food systems at the legislature, we include all of them and we share them out widely. And that is a way that we can really understand all these different areas. So that's always important for us to say at the beginning of this, because I know that sometimes we're not sure. But that is how we work. So I think at this point, Andrew, you are going to introduce our first speaker.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. That's awesome. Just a quick little primer there. And then we want to get to these awesome presentations. We got some really cool folks here to help educate us on different things happening in food systems in Oregon. So first off, we have David. Yeah, do you want to share your slides? Would that be okay? Or
Yeah, that might be
cool.
easier for me.
Okay, great. So I'm going to stop share. I'm going to give you whoops. Oh my God. I'm going to give you the ability to share. There you go. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everyone. Really love being here. My name is David Wieland. I use he, him pronouns. I work at Partners for Hunger Free Oregon. You can see we have a slide up right now that says the Oregon Hunger Task Force. That's a legislatively created body that we support and facilitate. My colleague Chris, who really facilitates that space, had a family emergency and can't be here today. But I'll give a quick overview of her piece and then share a little bit about some of the, share maybe too much about some of the SNAP changes that we're seeing in our state. Yeah, I would encourage you to throw questions or things in the chat or interrupt me if you want. I'll try and ask you all questions to keep it engaging. Andrew, I saw you come off.
Oh yeah, I just want to. I think we'll have time for maybe one or two, and maybe put them in the chat, folks, and then we can give that opportunity for folks to get those questions answered.
Yeah, and definitely if you could keep me on time, Andrew, give me a little heads up.
Happy to. Yeah, no problem.
I'm really excited to hear from other folks today too. So the Oregon Hunger Task Force, quick background, created by the legislature in 1989, 28 voting members, was open to the public. Its purpose was to end hunger in Oregon, and we did it. Just kidding. We still exist in these political contexts, we still exist in these economic conditions. But our purpose is to align the state, the public sector, community organizations in building a shared agenda to get there. And to that purpose, this summer we've been working with the governor's office on a food assistance sort of system report, understanding not the whole food system of Oregon, obviously, but it's one of those foundational pieces of it, our food assistance systems. I won't go deep into these. Again, this is Chris's work, but our sort of food assistance system has always been a really decentralized network in Oregon. Hunger is rising each year, and we're seeing disproportionate impacts of that. Black communities, trans and non-binary folks in Oregon, rural Indigenous Oregonians, some of the places where we're seeing increases. And HR 1, or the Big Beautiful Bill Act, or the federal budget, whatever context you know it by, has created a lot of additional issues for the systems that exist. And without sort of a long-term plan, we see a lot of facets of Oregon's food system that can't withstand the sort of growing needs that we're seeing. So one of the purposes, again, of part of this report and the space that we facilitate, the Oregon Hunger Task Force, is actually coming in with some shared priorities. Again, OCFSN doesn't set a sort of concentrated agenda. Our space does take that approach, and tries to have a unified voice speaking for a food security agenda. What that is, we're working on it. We have more people to talk to, more things to learn. I do want to share part of what I've been working on, some of the huge, really fundamental changes we're seeing to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which some think of as food stamps in Oregon. And the changes and what you need to know, either if you use food stamps or SNAP, if you work with folks who benefit from SNAP, or if, like all of you, we're part of an intertwined food system that sees big impacts from these federal programs, whether you're running a farmer's market that accepts double up food bucks, or you're a grocer who sees a significant amount of sales from SNAP participants. This is my context. I work for Partners for Hunger Free Oregon. We run the Oregon Hunger Task Force. We're a nonprofit. We're not a food bank or a government agency. We advocate for food insecure Oregonians. Again, if you're not familiar with SNAP, it is a mostly federally funded program that loads money onto looks like a credit card. Oregon Trail cards right there on my slide to help folks buy groceries. Folks can use those grocery stores, farmers markets. Some online retailers are starting to accept SNAP. You can do like grocery delivery now, which is cool. But we know that, this is out of order, maybe. In July, President Trump signed into law this bill that makes sweeping changes to programs, including SNAP and Medicaid, a number of other programs that could eliminate billions in funding to those, and most importantly, to the Oregonians who receive those benefits, whether they're the food benefits or medical benefits. And we'll talk about what that means in Oregon. And I just want to add the context of like, we know what's in the law, and we don't know how or when it's being implemented, which is frustrating. And we're figuring out a little bit every week or two. The Oregon Department of Human Services has said that no changes to SNAP eligibility will be expected until 2026. So if you benefit from SNAP, you participate in the program, continue to use that as usual. If you work with folks who benefit from SNAP, they should be getting proactive and frequent communication from ODHS about these changes. At the end, I'll share all sorts of resources you can use to let folks know about these changes and what to expect. Right now, SNAP helps more than 750,000 Oregonians with an average benefit of $6 a day across metro, suburban, rural communities. And we know that there's a big economic impact from this. In 2023, I think $1.8 billion in SNAP benefits were used in Oregon. So the big picture, SNAP is being reshaped by this Republican congressional bill by cutting eligibility, removing categories of participants who used to be eligible, by reducing benefits, by capping increases and excluding some costs, by adding some strict time limits or expanding those, and then just simply shifting billions in costs to states. And there's a pretty detailed analysis with costs to Oregon in here if you're really curious about going deeper, sort of what it looks like in the context of the state budget, which is sort of a 2-year period. But I wanted to explain each of these things. Again, this is where I have too many slides, too much information. I'll move quickly, and then if there are questions, we'll go backwards. I'll also share these slides. So change number 1, we're cutting SNAP. The federal government is cutting SNAP funding. So it used to be that 100% of SNAP benefits were paid by the federal government, and the administrative costs were split in half. Starting in 2027, Oregon will be paying more of those administrative costs to the tune of roughly $100 million a year in costs to the state. In terms of paying the costs of benefits, starting in a couple of years, Oregon will have to pay part of the actual SNAP benefits themselves, and that depends on the state's error rate. When we say error, that actually means overpayments or underpayments. And the majority of those things are the result of sort of mistakes made on the side of the state, not on the side of participants. So this is not the level of fraud within the SNAP program is incredibly small. It's about 0.1%. When we look at overpayments or underpayments, that's a different question. So based on Oregon's current error rate, we're talking close to $500 million every 2 years that the Oregon would be on the hook to contribute to those benefits that folks receive. That's money that could be funding our schools, our housing, our healthcare. It's putting a lot of pressure on the state budget right now. We are sort of expecting some states to even stop administering SNAP due to these federal demands. I don't think Oregon's in that category, but these are incredible changes to what has been a key lifeline for folks for decades. We're also seeing new restrictions on immigrant eligibility. And we know that federal law has always excluded many immigrants from receiving SNAP and a whole host of federal benefits. This is the result of flawed and racist federal immigration policy. We are seeing those categories expand. So immigrants with the following statuses will no longer be eligible for SNAP, including asylum seekers, refugees, survivors of domestic violence, victims of trafficking. Again, it's not clear exactly when these changes to SNAP eligibility will be implemented, but we know that this is part of the law. Certain groups remain eligible for SNAP. Those would be lawful permanent residents after 5 years of residency, 10 years work history, or under 18, Cuban Haitian entrants, COFA citizens. So we know that that's about 3,000 legally present immigrants in Oregon are losing their SNAP. Again, so many Oregonians who are experiencing food insecurity have already been denied access to SNAP. And we know that mixed status families are hit pretty hard as well. When one person in the family loses eligibility, we see sort of less money going to that household, and it affects everyone. The third big change we're looking at.
Sorry to interrupt, David. You got just a couple minutes left.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're seeing time limits that existed previously for some folks expanding. So time limits mean if you are within a certain age category, you need to work or train for 20 hours a week to keep your SNAP benefits. And we're seeing that expand to older adults, to parents and caregivers of children 14 or older, veterans, folks experiencing homelessness, and sort of expecting those time limits to include up to about 90,000 folks in Oregon. And we know from the experience in other states and even within our own state that these time limits really serve as paperwork traps for folks who should be eligible, who are already working, are already volunteering, and will not be able to receive their benefits because of the pretty intense reporting requirements, which is pretty frustrating. I have more information that you can share with folks around these work requirements going into place sort of in a phased manner. September 1st, 6 counties in Oregon had work requirements come back into place. The last couple of things changing, long term, the increases to SNAP benefits will be essentially frozen. USDA have been calculating increases to SNAP based on what did it cost to actually buy a healthy meal, and Congress has rolled back that and prevented USDA from doing so. So we're seeing roughly $7 less per person per month moving forward, and that just sort of exponentially increases over time. And the last are these specific SNAP utility deductions that have been lost, which is a significant amount for more than 50,000 households in Oregon, generally called heat and eat households. Sorry, that wasn't the last. The SNAP Ed, folks from SNAP Ed might be here today. They do an incredible service to connect not just SNAP participants, but institutions to all sorts of resources. SNAP Ed funding ends October 1st of this year. So big picture, the state of Oregon is facing a huge amount of financial burden to replace any of these costs. And we know that there are going to be ripple effects to communities in programs like school meal programs that are based on community eligibility rates. Folks who use SNAP or Medicaid then determine federal reimbursements for schools or for home-based childcare centers. Trying to wrap up really quickly, just how do we move forward? I missed my slide at the very start that I thought about putting in that is the reminder that this is really heavy information and difficult to hear, particularly if you benefit from these things or if you have loved ones that do. I just want to be really clear that we're not powerless in this situation. Even though these cuts come from Congress, Oregon has the ability to act, to refill and prevent some of the worst harm here. Other states are finding innovative ways to respond to this. There's just a couple of things I'd point you to. we're still building the plan in Oregon of what we do to ensure that food insecurity doesn't increase. But there's a number of things in here. One, you can sort of like help folks understand the changes by sharing a number of these resources, joining our Snap Updates mailing list where we're coordinating folks to build a plan and fight back. And that's what I've got for you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, David. Yeah, sorry to pin you in with that important information in a short time period. Maybe we could take, is there one question? And you can be getting set up, Aimee, if you want. Well, do that, sweet.
I just want to observe that clearly partners and the Oregon Hunger Task Force act as a really important translator of what happens on the regulatory front. And that's really important. You know, that's a really big piece of how the rest of us even know what to do or what's going on. So definitely not taking that organizational expertise for granted. And it seems like you have a good relationship with the state agencies in Oregon that actually implement these programs, which probably isn't true in all states. So just thinking about that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. I guess on that point, I might add, if there are ways in which we can be translating better, I would love to hear those. I think you all work with folks who have really specific questions or uses of these programs, whether it's like language access or the implications for nonprofits, whatever those things be. I would love to hear how we can get better information between some of those state agencies and complicated regulatory processes and the folks here. So don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
Okay, we're here to next. We got Aimee and Erik talking to us about Plan for Resilient Oregon, which you may mention this, Aimee, but I was really excited to see that eight members of our network have been selected to be part of your work. So really pumped to have you here to talk a little bit to our folks.
I am so excited. I started seeing people's introductions come in. I'm like, oh, I recognize that, and I recognize that org, and I recognize that org. So I'm excited to have so many of our Regional Resilience Forum members and contractors here in the room and a part of this network for this conversation. So I'm going to introduce myself really quick. I'm Aimee Fritsch. I use they, she pronouns. I am the coordinator of the plan. So I am the point person for all of our contractors and community-based organizations. And I'm here with my colleague, Erik, who is the manager for the plan and is our point person for all of our university partner work and research and the plan managing in general. So I'm going to pass it over to Erik to talk about what the Plan for Resilient Oregon is.
Awesome. Thanks, Aimee. Again, thank you all for having us in the space. I have to take a beat and just comment and lament the last great presentation. I mean, just tough stuff. And I'm originally from Tennessee, and unfortunately, we saw a lot of these changes and cuts in the 90s, and it's absolutely devastating for people's lives, as you all know. So, but we are here to focus on hopefully some ways to support and turn some of this around. So, yeah, we've commissioned out of the governor's office a Plan for Resilient Oregon that we're working on between now and next September. We really have some strong tenets that we're following with the plan to be people-centered. We'll say that like 5 times probably, but people-centered is crucial and important. We really want the plan to be able to reflect the priorities and interests of groups like yourselves, but also folks living in communities or on the ground who are recovering from disasters or working to build resilience, resistance too, but resilience around short-term and long-term stresses and challenges, particularly impacted by climate and climate change. And then we really want it to be informed and integrated by existing strategies and led by state agencies. Again, that one is, we just don't want to recreate the wheel with the plan. So I'll be faster, Aimee, than just that. But here's just some elements of why we're doing and why the governor commissioned the plan. And it really is, looking at that next biennium that'll start in 2027, legislative agenda. One of the and having kind of a clear plan for disaster resilience for the state of Oregon. But we think a huge co-benefit, exactly like you all are doing here, is an opportunity for shared learning, shared networking, community of practice, if you will. We really we want our process, if it can help with that, in terms of developing those strong bonds between agencies and community. We think that's an important element, obviously, of resilience. And then, looking towards implementation. And then the last one, I think, kind of reflects the conversation you just had, which is what are some other mechanisms for implementation or resources that the plan can help identify? Because a lot of the traditional elements for support, FEMA, BRIC grants, other community things that we've relied on from the federal side of things are going to be gone or are gone. So next slide. Again, want to reflect the needs and concerns of people across Oregon. Go ahead. We are going to address multiple hazards. So this is not, there was an Oregon resilience plan years ago and still is very valid. They're actually updating it. But it was really focused on seismic hazards only. And we're going to include all the hazards that are out there in our plan. So it is kind of cross-jurisdictional, cross-silo, cross-community, and that is exciting, but also brings its challenges. Next slide. So yeah, we talked a little bit about this. We've kind of created a structure as opposed to going out and like hiring a big firm or to help us, write the plan and do all the pieces. Nothing wrong with firms, but we really wanted and followed a vision of let's put our money where our mouth is and have the dollar stay in Oregon, and really support community organizations, communities, and folks that are in the work and doing the work. So we have created these regional resilience forums. There are 5 of them, and we've contracted with agencies, as many of you know, and as Aimee mentioned. And then we'll have a statewide resilience forum, which is a kind of advisory group helping support the plan as well. Go ahead, Aimee.
This is where I'm going
Oh,
to
that's
gently take it back
Love it.
because this is the realm that I work most closely with is our community-based organizations and our regional resilience forums. So we've talked a little bit about what the plan will be. And so I want to talk a little bit more about how we are creating the plan as well. So Erik introduced kind of our 2 levels of forums, and I want to give some more information about how that all comes together. So here are the 5 regions that we have created, selected. We looked at a bunch of different ways of dividing up the different counties from different organizations and agencies, and this is what we landed on. So we have a total of 53 community-based organizations that we are contracting with from these 5 regions, and some of them serve the whole region or the whole state. So we've got folks all over. And this is kind of a leftover slide from before, but contributing to the pro, it should be a good use of your time. This is something that we will be really implemented into policy, into practice, and it is something that we see going somewhere. This isn't a plan that's going to live on a shelf. This is a plan that is going to be used and put into action quite quickly, actually, compared to the way our timelines work sometimes. So I also wanted to show you how all these pieces fit together. So on the next slide, we've got the whole process. There's a lot going on. I'm going to walk through it really quick. Up at the top, you have the pro staff. You have Erik and I who are supporting this whole plan. We are working with a research team from U of O and OSU, who are doing all of that kind of researchy background, like what other resilience plans are out there, how are they being done, what's been successful, what hasn't. So that is informing kind of one swim lane of the plan, and the other swim lane of the plan is coming from our regional resilience forums. Like Erik said, we want to put our money where our mouth is, and we also know that the people that are closest on the ground, closest to the problem, often have the best solutions. And we wanted to fund the folks who were already doing resilience work with bake sales and knocking on doors and talking to their neighbors. So we contracted with community-based organizations, and knowing everybody is a little bit different. Everybody's got a different perspective. Even the 53 organizations that we're working with, it's not really enough voices to be representative of a statewide plan. So part of what we're doing with this is giving each of them funding to do 2 community engagement events to talk to their people about resilience and what it looks like and what they think we need here in Oregon to be more resilient to natural hazards. And we know all those events are going to look different, right? Some of them might be focus groups. Some of them might be they're funding the annual barbecue. However, folks are coming together. We're not asking folks to come to our table. We're saying, hey, here's some money. Can we have a seat at yours? And get that feedback into the plan, which comes, an organization has their events. They bring these conversations to the regional resilience forums. They also, then the facilitators of the forum bring that information to the statewide resilience forum that's talking and making kind of the final recommendations of, yes, we need to incorporate this, we need to incorporate that. Hey, universities, you suggested this, but this isn't going to work on the ground. And all of that comes together to create the actual plan, which will then go to Governor Kotek, and this will be her plan for resilience, increasing resilience to natural hazards in Oregon. So that's all the moving pieces and how they fit together with this. I also want to give you a sense of the timeline because, like Erik mentioned, we are moving quickly. We are in project planning now. This has been hiring, onboarding, contracting, getting all the people in place. Moving into phase 2 next month, we are signing contracts as we speak. We have working out those details with the organizations, then starting to have our forum meetings in October through June, July of next year, gathering that information, developing the ideas. And along the way, our university folks are writing up those ideas into the plan, but we'll really hit that reviewing stage next summer, July or August, and we'll have the plan completed by Labor Day of next year for the 6th anniversary of the Labor Day fires. The funding for this project came out of the funding for the wildfires that Oregon received from the federal government. And so we want to be able to honor that and honor the painful experiences that created this opportunity by having this recommendation to come out to at that same time frame next year. So we would love to have you get involved. I know we have folks that are already going to be involved as part of our regional resilience forums. We also have a mailing list and group that we're calling our Resilience Action and Impact Network. I will drop this link in the chat. I'll drop all 3 of these links in the chat when I am no longer talking.
You got it? Okay.
I got it. Yeah, I've got them all bookmarked, just not
Cool.
not ready as I'm talking. So also, if you have a local or county or organizational plan for resilience that your organization has for how you respond to natural hazards, we would love to incorporate it. One of the things we are really trying to do is not reinvent the wheel, not ignore the good work that's already been done, and incorporate what we already have out there in the plan to really elevate good work that's already happening. And finally, we've got a website. It is a work in progress. As soon as I can connect with our web folks, we will have up the list of all of the organizations that are part of the forums. You'll be able to see that. You can sign up to attend the statewide resilience forums if you'd like to. Let's see. And just more resources, notes, agendas will all be there. We'd love to have folks be as involved as they want to be in this process. And so with that, we'd love to keep in touch. Here is Erik's and my contact information. We would love to chat more about the plan, how it fits with your organization, any questions you might have. I know we're tight on time today, so I'm going to wrap up and then drop those links. But if folks do have questions, happy to chat now or take it offline later.
Awesome. Thank you both. That's so cool. Yeah, maybe a question? I see we got some good questions in the chat answered. A question in the chat. Megan.
Hello. I had the opportunity to talk with Erik a month or so ago, and our organization, Oregon Climate and Agriculture Network, is really interested in engaging both in the regional level and at the statewide level, which is our primary focus is at the statewide level. And I'd love it if you could just share a little bit, Erik, about I know that it was really helpful, Aimee, to hear you say that a lot of the reason that the regional forums are being funded is to have money go to communities on the ground who are already doing this work. And Erik, if you could just explain a little bit about the difference between funding, why there is or isn't funding for the statewide
Yeah.
participation. But I think I understand a little better now that Aimee.
Yeah. And actually, Megan, I need to follow up with you in addition anyway, because you helped us see some of that, some of this stuff on the state level as well. So yeah, our primary focus was to really engage, as Aimee really well described, the local community organizations for that kind of big listening, listening and engagement. And then for groups that can actually touch and relate to their own communities, which all of you probably fit into that description. On the statewide level, though, we do want statewide organization representation. We are trying to finalize that group even this week, and we have not. Let's put it this way: we have not precluded the idea of supporting some of the statewide groups with funding as well, because we know we know engaging in these kind of things over time is a challenge. So that hopefully will have some more solidified answers, but we're trying to be thoughtful and really what's been, I guess, slower on our side of things is identifying the right state players, even within state government. And, we could probably have a resilience forum of 90 people if we really tried. And that's just really hard to get much progress out of. So that's kind of too much info for everybody, but it's what we're working on, because we do want to try to be representative, but yet still be able to kind of move and function on the plan. But more to come for you, Megan.
Great. Thanks so much, Erik.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate y'all's work and speaking to our policy folks. Next, we have Rachael Ward with Farmers Market Fund. We are interested in learning from Rachael around your work as doing agency partnerships. That's one important way for OCF or for food systems folks to be working in the state and bringing state dollars into food systems work. So, want to learn from your experience. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I am just going to talk off the cuff to give you all a break from slides and tell you a little bit about the history of how Farmers Market Fund has worked with the Oregon Department of Human Services, or DHS. So first of all, if you don't know, Farmers Market Fund is the organization that runs the Double Up Food Bucks program. We have a long history of working with DHS and receiving state funding. So that started as one-time appropriation asks back in 2019 for $1.5 million, and then we've received pretty steady state funding every biennium since. In 2023, we received $4.16 million in the DHS agency budget. So that was the first time that we were ever put into an agency budget. And I have been asked by a lot of folks of like, how did you do that? And my answer is, it was a lot of luck. I'm not quite sure. Someone was in the right place at the right time and stuck us in an agency budget, but I can tell you some things that I think helped. So I think just our close partnership with Department of Human Services through the state funding really helped. We have quarterly check-ins with them. We're always keeping them updated on what's happening with the program. We did a lot of awareness building and champion building among all legislators, bipartisan across the state, as well as within the agency. And so my biggest advice is like find those champions, keep them updated, keep them informed, and really aim for as much bipartisan and statewide support and impact that you can. We were told by DHS that because there was such broad support for our program, it was really easy to stick us into an agency budget. Lots of testimonials and advocacy from constituents in every part of the state reaching out to their legislators. So everything from farmers to market managers to grocers, shoppers with SNAP. And then I think once legislators really knew Double Up well, we started to ask for continual funding. So we said, you know this program, we don't need to explain it to you anymore. You know that there's a need, that it continues to be a need. It's not going to go away. So why not just throw us in an agency budget? And someone did eventually. We also had some conversations with DHS about how to include us into that level, but that current service level budget. But ultimately, it was an advocate on the Ways and Means Committee who decided to put us in that budget. And then DHS has done a lot of education from within, including talking about Double Up in their presentations to the Human Services Subcommittee. We have a lot of clear examples of the impact of the program, lots of testimonials, like I mentioned, and then a really clearly defined opportunity for growth and expansion and increased funding. So we did an economic impact assessment in 2023 or 24 that looked at, if every single person who receives SNAP in Oregon participated in Double Up, how much funding would we need? And it was over 100 times the current funding that we get. So just being able to demonstrate that there is like huge potential for growth also doesn't hurt that we get federal matching for the state funding, and so we're able to leverage those state funds for a match. And then just did a lot of sharing of examples from other states through our partnership with the American Heart Association to show how programs like Double Up were being funded in states across the country. Oftentimes, it's helpful to show how other agencies have supported similar programs. So how it works, if you're curious of like, what does it look like on the back end? DHS shares with us what the allocation was. Our partners at Oregon Food Bank and Pacific Northwest CSA Coalition and Farmers Market Fund come together. We create a budget. We submit it to DHS, and then DHS actually puts together an amendment to our original contract from 2019. So we're just amending that contract at that point, which is a lot quicker process than a full contract every 2 years. In 2023, we were able to request the full 2-year allocation up front, which helps us a lot to receive that full 4.16 million in the beginning of 2024. And so we report annually on our progress through some narrative reports as well as financial reports. And then in July of the final year, we provide an estimate for how our funds will be spent by November of that year, which is our cutoff. So it's a pretty streamlined process at this point. And I think the benefits of it, our time that we've invested in advocacy and legislative work went down a lot once we were in an agency budget. We didn't disappear, right? But we weren't having to pound the pavement and work so hard to get funding every biennium. It was more just like don't forget about us, and here's why it's important. And yes, we still need funding. The upfront payment of the state grant funds has really helped FMF as an organization to build our reserves. So we were able to invest those state funds into CDs, which have provided some interest that goes back into the program and then provides a lot of security for the program. I talked about the federal match already, just having that answer to sustainability. When the feds ask, how is this program going to continue past federal funding, has helped us to get more federal funding over and over again. And then I think the biggest benefit really showed up during this long session when we felt a little bit more protected against cuts or conversations of, we don't have any money, we don't have enough money. It's a lot easier to make the case to at least fund the agency budgets at the current service level than to add one-time appropriation. So we were very, very lucky that we got put into the agency budget at the time that we did. I think otherwise we would be in a similar situation as a lot of other folks who were doing one-time appropriations. And then I think having that relationship with DHS just helps to have an insider view and perspective. part of the reason I think it was an easy sell for them is that our program is so tied to SNAP, which is a program that they administer. And so we really have to work in concert and collaboration with each other. That being said, there are some drawbacks. I think that initial contracting process and amendments even take a really long time. So we often find out about funding in July or August, and then we don't have a contract in place until sometimes March, April the following year, and funds aren't sent until that point. So there is a gap between when we know we have funding and when we actually get it, but I think that's the case for a lot of folks. And then a lot of other state agencies do reimbursement. I think DHS is unique in giving the full funds up front, but I have heard from other nonprofits that they have to do like quarterly reporting and expense submissions, invoicing, and then there's often a delay in when they get reimbursed. So I know that that's something that the Nonprofit Association of Oregon was trying to advocate for this last session to just really like streamline some of those contracting processes across agencies so that they could be more beneficial. And then I think there is a little bit of a greater pressure to report and continue to show growth and expansion of the program rather than just kind of maintenance of the program at this point, which has been challenging to do when we're only getting these little inflation bumps every 2 years now. We can't really grow and expand the program at the same rate that we were when we went from 1 million to 4 million, right? And then there are some limitations on the percent of funding that has to go towards programming versus admin or staffing. I don't know if that's unique to our like specific funding source, but I imagine it shows up in other agency contracts too. And then the final thing that's a little bit of a drawback is it's just not super clear how we ask for increases in funding beyond this like standard inflation increase every 2 years. We know that that Double Up needs more funding. For example, we asked for 8 million in 2023 and got 4 million. But we also don't want to cause confusion or jeopardize our position in an agency budget. So just the route that we go through to ask for more funding doesn't feel as clear. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say. And I think if folks are interested in like forming a relationship with an agency, I just suggest like trying to find those champions, trying to start forming that relationship now, asking them those questions about how do they do their contracts, how do they fund organizations, what sort of limitations do they put on funding. And then I think the biggest thing is just finding those legislative champions who have a good relationship either with state agencies or with the legislative fiscal office and can advocate for you. Because it ultimately was a legislator that was like, hey, I want to know where this funding for Double Up is. And they were able to slide it into an agency budget. Yeah. Open to questions too. And hopefully that was helpful.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. That was very helpful. Yeah, any questions? Lauren, I saw you had something in the chat there.
No, it was just thinking about when Rachel said luck, we'll always take as much luck as we can get. But I was just thinking about the many years of folks talking about this, experimenting with different programs and then this federal thing. So it really has been a really amazing thing that's happened over time. And then you do have to, and on top of that, have right place at right time and a champion. So there's a lot of hard work that went into it and will continue to go into it to keep it in there.
Yeah, and to your question about GusNIP and federal match, we are lucky that GusNIP is like continually funded. We haven't seen any impacts to our federal funding in that way. Remains to be seen in the 2026 RFA when that comes out and what that looks like. But we've heard some good bipartisan support for these types of programs, so it has been more promising than other areas of work, I would say, in terms of continued federal funding.
Cool.
Great. Well, round of applause for our awesome group of presenters. That was a lot of stuff in just short period of time, 45 minutes or so. And so we wanted to look at all these. Oh, that's cool. We wanted to make sure we didn't cut anyone short. So we went a little over on the presentations as to be expected. And so, but we have planned for another half an hour of this meeting. We can do, we're going to do some breakout rooms if folks want to stick around and chat with their fellow food systems policy folks. We'll do 4 breakout rooms, and if you feel like you're good, got what you needed today, and you need to get some work done, totally understandable to do that as well. And then so we'll take about 10-15 minutes in breakouts, and then we'll come back and kind of chat about this working group, what we want to kind of plan for in the future. This is an example of what we're hoping to do in the next coming months, and going into 2026 is to provide some of these informative presentations while not losing our CFS community food systems at the legislature work in 2026 during the short session. Anything you want to add to that, Lauren?
All I want to say is if there is a state agency you believe is relevant to our work in community food systems and you either work with them or you wish you worked with them, please let us know. And so we could maybe put that on our list as an agency we want to know more about.
Yeah, that'd be great. So and folks who are our presenters, don't feel like you have to stay to, if you want to answer questions, if folks want to get into any of these working or these breakout groups, one will be talking about what we heard from SNAP and Partners for Hungry Free Oregon. 2, Plan for Resilient Oregon. 3, agency partnerships. And 4, folks want to chat about the 2026 short session. You don't feel like you have to stick around if you have to go too. And we'll pull folks out of breakout rooms if the conversation is not going anywhere for folks. So let's open this up. You can choose where you want to go. And yeah, have fun chatting, or stick around in the main room too if you feel like just talking general stuff. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple minutes to sort itself out. I'm not seeing an invitation to join a breakout room. Oh, we just join. I see.
Yeah, you can pick. So the numbers here on the screen: 1,
Great.
2, 3, and 4.
Sounds good.
Sorry, I'm new to this, so I don't see how to do this. How to choose a breakout room.